Hello everyone, welcome to Redbus US channel. In this video, we look at the latest updates in employment immigration, F1 visas and all of that for the week of May 11th to May 16th. We look at the major news that have been in this week, such as the June Visa Bulletin, how dates have changed, and OPT fraud crackdown that has happened, and USCIS signature rule, and other H1 slots related news that has come up this week. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, do subscribe for getting regular updates. We try to do this every week, so stay tuned for that. So the big news, right? I think this is one of the biggest news. I guess earlier this year, we have seen that dates move significantly for EB2 for India and all of that. But what has happened in June? Visa Bulletin just came in, and the employment-based, EB2 for India retrogressed by about 10.5 months, and EB1 retrogressed by 3.5 months. And China just very smaller movement, right? And for family, it's for family based, you have to use dates of filing, and for employment based, you have to use final action dates. So this is actually a big news. And just to give you the gravity of what is this, right? So I mean, we haven't seen this kind of retrogression in very recent times, right? So for EB2, it's about 10 and a half months backwards. Technically, retrogression means what it means, just to, in layman's terms, um, you Department of State assumed that they don't have enough demand, so they basically pushed the dates forward. Now there are more people who submitted the applications, and they think that okay, we have a lot of applications, so we will not be able to, fill all of or basically give green cards to all of them. So what we need to do, we want to actually push the dates backwards so that only we can take some of them, because otherwise the date, the numbers will be over because they've got a lot of application. So this is when a scenario where they have more supply than the demand that they have for visas. That's when they push the dates, and this happened many times in the past. But again, this is where some people get lucky, some people get unlucky as well with this retrogression. So all in all, at least for EB2 India applicants, it retrogressed by 10.5 months. So if you miss the boat in earlier this year, then it could be some time why then it comes back by forward to this 10.5 months, right? So that's a big change. Same thing with EB1 India. It's not a huge retrogression, but still 3.5 months is significant. Sometimes, even though this looks few months, this can take years to actually clear sometimes. I've seen this in the past, it can take years. So because we don't know how many applications they've got. So that is the biggest unknown with all of these retrogressions, right? So that's the big thing. And also USCIS said they will use final action dates, so that's not going to be help. And also there maybe more retrogression, further in July, August possible. We don't know. That's the biggest unknown at this point. And some categories may become unavailable. I think that's the thing, right? So again, we'll have to see how this will play out. Now, in terms of EB3s, the positive news is for EB3 India, it has gone advanced by 1 month. That's what you see on the screen to December 15, 2013. And for EB3 China, about 6 weeks advancement. And for family-based, again, it's about 5 months advancement and 4 months advancement. So there is sufficient demand, but basically, all in all, not a lot of positive news for employment-based guys, except EB3 guys, some of the EB3 guys, but otherwise it's kind of bad for Indians. But for China, there is definitely some positive news as well here. So that's what comes out of it. So we'll have to wait and watch, because we are not at September yet. Some of these have. They'll say, we don't have availability, so we're going to make them available. So that is what they will do. When it's unavailable, basically, then you can't really submit for this year. So many of these things are kind of dynamic, and we'll have to see. We still have a few more months left for this fiscal year until September 30th. So July, August, September. So we have 3 more months left. So we'll have to see how this will come out. So that's the update in terms of Visa Bulletin and how the dates have retrogressed. So the next big one, earlier this week, we did a separate video on this F1 Visa OPT fraud crackdown. So this is basically like a kind of I would say a refresher. You can watch that video we have done. But in summary, if you have missed that separate video, right, the thing is DHS did a big press release on May 12th, where they basically said that they've investigated for over 1 year. And they say about there are 10,000 plus F1 OPT students that have been, found to be in some sort of fraud, involved in some sort of fraud. And the top 25 OPT employers were being probed on this, and they did it in multiple states. So that's what they told. And the key thing was the research. Basically, what it told us, these are pay to stay kind of schemes where the somebody pays, basically the student pays to be in the status, so that they can find a job, right? And there are some places that are using PO boxes, and some places they're using some random addresses that are being shared by many people. So there is a lot of issues that have been uncovered around this, and this is a big thing that so ICE and DHS actually came out and did this huge press release. So again, never try to, if you're an F1 student, never try to do any shortcuts. Period. That's it. Because these are, while I know you may be unfortunate or desperate to find a job, or you could not find a job, if you cannot just move on, and then because that way you can again come back in the future. But if you do something like this, then you're barred for a very long time, and it could create more trouble for you. So that's why I never enter into these kinds of things. Now, there is another rule that came up this week. It's called USCIS Signature Rule that's effective July 10th. And this is published an interim final rule. What it means is it's technically it'll become final from July 1st. I mean, basically, this is where you don't have to wait for comments and it'll just become a thing. Again, they have been trying to do this for a while, but again, it has not been in person. Now they're making this formal. So what the key message from that is, now, in the past, when they accept an application, it meant that it was processed and the signature, everything was valid. That was assumption. Now, what they're saying with this new thing is that, okay, even though if they accept an application saying that everything was okay and the thing that's legitimate, but later part of the processing, they realize that it's not a valid signature for whatever reason. They don't believe in that. And then at that time, then they basically can deny the thing, and then you could also not get your feedback. So this is kind of very tricky, because any kind of mistakes that can happen even later could also have an impact on the application. So I mean, all in all, I mean, this is a very, very tricky rule. So valid signatures means anything with wet ink, basically you have to sign and scan and upload. That's the one, and photocopy of the handwritten one, right? And if you're submitting digitally, then on the website itself, VSS website, then they do accept some of that. But otherwise, this is applicable for quite a few. Sorry, I meant to say quite a few visa types, which is essentially I-2, H1Bs, extensions, EADs, all of these, quite a few applications, right? So many much for all the audience that we're looking at. So that's the key update here, and this is actually an interim final rule, and it was published this week. So yeah, we'll see where that goes, because it's final. Now, the other update we have on H1B H4, no new slots. Basically, this week again, there is no bulk slots. Again, there are some, we call these ghost slots that appear here and there, but no bulk slots were released, at least as for the paid feedback from our groups and things. So again, if you are in the US and do not have an appointment, or even have an appointment, it's not suggested to travel, because the situation with visa stamping and all can be tricky and all of that. So that's the thing. So yeah, so again, this is the update on the visa stamping. And what remains unchanged for this week is we have something F1 duration of status rule that is submitted with OMB. So waiting on that, and this is where you change, where they're trying to change the duration of status to a fixed time period. We could expect this anytime soon. And again, the FBI vetting is active. There is a Texas, in there are about 30 companies are being, there is H1 probe that's happening. There is also dual wage rule that's going with the comments. So these are all that are currently going on, ongoing activities. Key ones, I would say, not everything, but that's what it is. Just to summarize, key takeaways for this week. So the June Visa Bulletin for EB2 India retrogressed to 10.5 months, and it's one of the biggest pullbacks in recent times. And EB1 retrogressed about 3.5 months, and we'll have to see how it goes. And EB3 advanced by only 1 month, and EB3 China advanced by 6 weeks. That's the thing. And there is a new USCIS signature rule that's effective from July 10th. So where they actually can deny an application later, saying that the signature is fraudulent, and you can also lose your money. So this is something very, very important to look at when you're actually sending any forms to USCIS. And there was an ICE crackdown on F1 OPT, where they basically picked up about 10,000 students. That's what they say, who've been non-compliant, or doing involved in these sorts of things. So there's a lot of compliance pressure rising to basically change how, on this OPT thing and all of that. So we'll have to see what comes out of it. But there's a huge press release that was done. And other major rules that are, some of them are ongoing. So we'll have to see what's, regular, D/ all of that are happening. So that's it, folks. A summary for this week. So if you haven't subscribed to our channel, do subscribe for getting regular updates. We are trying to do this every week so that you don't have to keep following the news. Just come here and we'll try to give you the updates on employment-based immigration, F1 visa, H1, H4, all of that as well. Thank you for watching. Do subscribe.